Through years of struggle, Robert Mugabe was the face and the force behind Zimbabwe's transition to independence and equal rights. He would prove, though, to be not just his country's liberator, but also its destroyer. The former president has died, aged 95.
He presented himself a hero.
I'm a man of the people, actually.
Promising his country a bright future, but would eventually bleed it dry.
There will never be a regime change here.
Robert Mugabe was born into poverty in 1924, becoming a teacher, later using his leadership skills in the nationalist movement in Rhodesia.
Everybody must be accorded his full political rights, whether he be white or black, educated or uneducated, rich or poor.
But he paid dearly for his stand, spending 11 years in jail as a political prisoner. Freed, he hungered to overthrow the white government. The guerrilla war would cost thousands of lives, but eventually a deal was signed.
We were fighting it for one people who are now constituted into a nation.
Rhodesia was renamed Zimbabwe, 1980, a landmark year.
It is my very great privilege to hand to you these constitutional instruments, the symbol of your independence.
But his promises of justice and reconciliation were short-lived, as he embarked on a ruthless rule that lasted 40 years. Farmers were murdered or forced off their properties. Homes of his opponents were bulldozed, the land going mostly to his cronies.
In the Bahamas, it's the non-stop mission with no end in sight. This family pulled from the Raddock one by one, just in time.
So this is terrible.
Rescues by air and sea, searching for people on the devastated Abaco Island.
It literally looked like we were bombed. Everything in Abaco is gone.
Thousands are still missing, and the death toll rising.
It was absolutely apocalyptic, and that word I've used deliberately.
People here still in shock.
I had to hold my baby up for like an hour or two just to keep her from drowning.
Those lucky enough to be rescued rushed to this Nassau hospital.
One lady saw her family wash away in the sea, and so you have to deal with the emotional aspect as well as the physical injury.
One survival story after another.
I watched my friends die in front of me.
Leon Lazard saved his brother's life. As water rushed in, the two punched a hole into the roof, where he clung to his brother, who nearly slipped away.
North Korea is carrying out cyberattacks and illicit trade to make money despite the strict international sanctions regime. In a report released Thursday, the UN Security Council's North Korea Sanctions Committee stressed that if there are to be additional sanctions on North Korea, then the regime's cyber attack should be the main target. According to the report, the North over the past few years has focused on hacking financial institutions and virtual currency exchanges around the world. In 35 rounds of cyber attacks against 17 countries, including South Korea, since December 2015, the regime has seized up to $2 billion. The money was used to develop weapons. Pyongyang is also selling fishing rights to other countries to earn currency. The report says fishing boats from other countries have been seen owning or working to obtain fishery rights in North Korean waters.
It's divided an entire nation, and now the Brexit debate has divided Boris Johnson's own family. The Prime Minister's brother has sensationally quit politics because he's torn between loyalty to his sibling and his country.
After a humiliating week on the floor of Parliament, the US Vice President was a friend in need.
Mr. Prime Minister, thank you for such a warm welcome.
Absolutely. Great to see you.
And a very busy time here in the United Kingdom.
Always busy.
But having lost his majority on the floor of the House of Commons, Boris Johnson suffered another big blow, and this one was close to home.
Can you tell us when you're planning to resign?
I haven't got any further comments.
His brother, Joe Johnson, announced he'll quit as a Conservative MP and junior member of Cabinet, citing a conflict between family loyalty and the national interest, effectively rebuking the Prime Minister's deeply divisive approach to Brexit.
Shifting gears now, a UN report on North Korea's latest activities says the reclusive regime is continuing with its nuclear and missile development programs. By testing ballistic missiles over the past few months, it has continued to develop its ICBMs while also carrying on with its uranium enrichment.
The UN Security Council committee that monitors sanctions implementation against North Korea has assessed that North Korea's recent missile tests are designed to support its development of intercontinental ballistic missiles, underscoring the ongoing threat posed by the regime. The panel report covers the February to August period and comes as negotiations between Pyongyang and Washington have stalled since the no-deal summit in Hanoi. In particular, the UN experts noted the significance of recent short-range ballistic missile tests by North Korea, which Trump has dismissed as very standard.
The U.S. military has returned to Guyana after many years on a joint military exercise / humanitarian mission. There's nothing quite like a humanitarian mission led by guys who specialize in bombing things. It's like having a drug rehab center run by drug lords. But small details. The important thing is that Guyana is important.
Guyana sits in a strategic location on the north edge of South America and on the Caribbean.
And oh look, what a coincidence. It borders Venezuela. I mean, what are the chances of that? The same Venezuela that has US bases all around it. Here. Brazil is hinting that it's open to hosting a US military base. Oh my, Venezuela is like the center of a donut of US bases. Same Venezuela that the US has threatened repeatedly, where it has tried to spark regime change, and which it has encircled with guns, just in case Trump decides to pull the trigger.
It's a regime that frankly could be toppled very quickly by the military if the military decides to do that.
Last night, the president announced plans to deal with femicide, and in the past 24 hours, 3 women were murdered in the Cape Flats, and no arrests have been made. Details around their deaths are still unclear, but one of them was apparently stoned to death. This during ongoing protests against gender-based violence in South Africa.
Well, the first incident that we heard of happened in Khayelitsha, where during an abduction, the woman was taken away from a partner. Partner was shot by those criminals who also happened to have taken the TV set of that property. That woman was later found dead next to a beachfront here in Cape Town. 2 other incidents occurred in Gugulethu. The one that we recently went to, a woman was stoned to death. People living in that area saying that they're not sure whether that woman died there or she came there having died already. And then the other incident, just about 5 minutes drive from that actual scene, another woman's body was found, also believed to be stoned to death.
We begin with Typhoon Lingling, which is fast approaching the Korean peninsula. It's expected to be one of the strongest typhoons ever to hit South Korea, bringing in torrential rain and strong winds.
The heavy rain that poured down Thursday over most parts of South Korea has stopped in most areas. But Typhoon Lingling is quickly getting closer, bringing more rain and strong winds. Lingling is a medium-sized typhoon with a maximum wind speed of 145 to 180 kilometers per hour, strong enough to knock down trees. As of this afternoon, it's around 500 kilometers south of Jeju Island. By Saturday morning, it will be west of Jeju and then close to Seoul by the afternoon. Jeju and the waters around it are under a typhoon advisory, and the rest of the country is under a preliminary typhoon warning.
A welcome ceremony for Merkel was held earlier today at the Great Hall of the People in central Beijing, and many people say that her trip this time is a benchmark in many aspects. Let's take a look.
It is Merkel's 12th official trip to China. During her 2-day visit, she's expected to meet with President Xi Jinping and attend a meeting of Bilateral Economic Advisory Committee with Premier Li Keqiang. Topping the agenda are economic policy, international issues, as well as bilateral relations. Merkel said that she wanted to build closer ties with China given the complex international environment, while Premier Li said that China would like to work with Germany to sustain multilateralism and free trade.
Now to the 8-year-old who survived a mountain lion attack in his own backyard in Colorado. Now Pike Carlson is telling his story for the very first time.
The Carlson family lives in a rural part of Colorado, but say they had never seen a mountain lion around their home.
An 8-year-old child counting his blessings this morning after a lucky escape from the grip of a mountain lion. Pike Carlson was with his older brother Gage playing in their family's backyard when a mountain lion suddenly emerged, biting Pike in the head. A surveillance camera from Carlson's neighborhood clearly shows a mountain lion lurking about, one of 3 spotted that same day. The lion dragged Carlson down a hill beneath a tree, Pike fighting for his life, speaking out about the ordeal to KUSA.
I did find a stick and I tried to get it in the eye, but soon the stick snapped.
His brother Gage running to alert their parents for help.